Welcome to Tony at 12. I'm Tony LeBlanc, and today I'm in conversation with Charles King, Chief Operating Officer of Rovr, and we are going to discuss the application of virtual reality or VR to health and welfare. Charles, good to see you.
Good to see you again, Tony, yes, really pleased to be here.
Thank you very much. First of all, can we actually kick off by a definition of VR, virtual reality?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've written it, so I knew you were going to ask this, and it's really important to have, I think, an understanding of what VR is, because it's very easy for us in our little company, Rovr Systems, to forget that other people don't generally know what we're talking about. So virtual reality, or VR, is a computer-generated three-dimensional, real or imaginary environment that can be explored and interacted with by a person. And the person wears a VR glasses and earphones, and that provides both complete visual and hearing immersion. And the effect is of real presence. That is, I am here. I am no longer just watching this, but I have agency and abilities within this new environment I'm looking at. And that kind of matches with what the guys at MIT would say, is that your brain is really just a data processing center, and the senses feed it the data that it needs to recognize what the world is around it. So that's what we're doing.
So that's basically it. So taking it just a little bit further then, when you're actually exploring something, is that pre-recorded, or how does that work?
Yeah, so a lot of VR, actually quite a lot of VR still to date is that of imaginary scenes. So an artist will use some sort of software program, three-dimensional software program, like Blender or even UE4, which is what we use, so Unreal Engine, and they'll generate an artistic impression of an environment. And that's certainly one way, and we do some of that. But our preference, and that I think for the people we're working with, is to have real places. And the technology over the last few years has enhanced that ability to do that massively, so that this is known as photogrammetry. So you take thousands of photographs, and that's relatively easily done, of a place, and then generate from those photographs three-dimensional models of that place. So it's a real place. You get photorealistic imagery of that place, and you can now walk in that.
That's incredible.
We've done that with several places.
Yeah.
And you generate three-dimensional models.
Okay, now looking at the Rovr website, one of the headings that you have is mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
Can you explain the rationale behind that?
Yeah, very much so. We're really interested in allowing people to escape the confines of where they are, and do a number of things. One is to do unwitting exercise. That's the kind of body bit, so that they're walking and enjoying new environments. That the mind is that of actually taking them away from where they may be and enabling them to connect with others. So there's very much a social aspect to this. Really important for our health and well-being is connection. The isolation of people is really very bad, and that's something that we have seen. It was an experiment you would never want to do, Tony, but happened to happen over the last 2 years.
Called COVID.
Isolation. That's right. COVID has forced people in isolation, and it was already known that this was bad. Age UK would I think on their website somewhere they've got it's equivalent to 15 cigarettes a day of being isolated from other people, and that's not good for us. So our general well-being is not good, and it's not good for the mind. So that's very much something that we're interested in doing, which is to connect people, mind and body. Yeah. And we do that by social VR platform. And then the soul, that's just good for our well-being. Our general feeling of well-being is enhanced if you can connect with people, if you can visit new stuff, if you can learn things by doing that. So that's very much what we're about.
And the second area was this question of relieve, restore, and revitalize. And I suppose they're just knock-ons from the first three.
To a large extent, yes. So we, our little company has been around for a long time in a slightly different format, where we just were developing and selling essentially a mouse for navigation in VR. If you want to move around safely in virtual reality, you need to be safe from the real world. The real world is really hard if you hit it when you don't expect it. It's that same problem that when you walk down a set of stairs and you think there's another stair at the bottom and there isn't, and your foot slams down because your brain's all set up to place your foot on a step which is deeper than the floor actually is. And so that's a problem in VR, because you're wandering around, you think the world is as you see it, but actually the real world is out there too. And now you've got that collision. And so you don't want any of that. And so for some 9-10 years, we just sold the mouse to enable people to walk around. And then in 2019, we said, well, there's a new opportunity here. And the reason that new opportunity arose was because wireless headsets became good enough. And so we started to look at developing a social platform around what we call our revitalized system, which is the fully ambulatory walking. And then we discovered that actually people need to go on a journey to get to there. They need to start off seated, and many people may already be chair-bound or bed-bound, and therefore there's value in having things for seated, and that's our relieve system. And we were contacted by one of the UK's larger healthcare providers and said, could we develop something specifically for people with onsets of dementia and with dementia? And so we started to develop that for them. And then we were contacted by the NHS, who said, actually, we have a different purpose for it, which is distraction from pain and for some of the discomforts associated with some of the treatments in oncology. And so we started to develop that same system for them as well. And so that is actually now working with the NHS in a project for distraction, pain distraction. But is also the same kit is being used in a different purpose, which is in care homes and in residential settings, where we can distract, where we can engage with new conversations. It's a lovely way of connecting with people. So that's the kind of relief system. So that's seated VR. So it's strictly, is it VR? Well, we would, in a strict sense, can you interact with that environment? No, you can't. But it is 360 video. People feel present in that environment. We can provide new music and natural sounds there, and from places from all around the world. And we also have some CGI scenes in that, so some lovely scenes which we've generated. Then, there's the step to. There's a step moving from there. There are people who have been deconditioned as a result of COVID. Yeah. COVID has been bad for our general health, Tony. It is a second pandemic, if you will, that associated with not having walked enough. Some did. Some took the opportunity over those 2 years of lockdown to actually get out. There were many who were naturally anxious of going out. Many who were in residential settings who weren't able to get out as they used to. And that happens anyway over northern winters. Anybody who lives in the northern hemisphere and has to suffer a northern winter typically deconditions a little bit over winter if they're not exercising. That happened massively during the COVID lockdown because people were just locked down. And so to restore leg muscles, any of those muscles attached to the knees, so the hamstrings or the quads and those calf muscles are sometimes known by medics, I think, as the little heart. That's the thing which pumps your blood back up through the venous system back into your heart. And it's those muscles which are necessary to move. And so our restore system does that. So you're seated, you're provided with an environment which you can see, you're doing this with others, so it's a social, and so that's lovely. No, that's great.
And from that point of view, it really helps muscles and gets people going again. I suppose circulation comes into it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's and that's why we called it Restore. It exercises those muscles. We had a lovely couple just 2 weeks ago now. This was our first time of trying it out with this, so it's a new product for us, putting it in front of a couple who are in a residential setting, care home, and they were competing with each other to see who could do the kilometre. So they both of them walked. Both of them walked. The one just under a kilometre, one just over a kilometre, and that was lovely to see.
And it was all sitting down.
That's right. So that's right. So but it was exercising those key muscles which need to get them up into full walking. Now,
you've got involved with both Oxfordshire and Cornwall in terms of pushing out the project, and that's going quite well.
It is. We have been really fortunate at having a wonderful contact within Oxfordshire County Council, who's been driving our contacts with the care home communities up here in Oxfordshire. And we're working also with the universities of Oxford and the University of Plymouth down in Cornwall. And it's the Plymouth team from the university there who've been driving the system down in Cornwall. And real interest in engaging with older communities. Cornwall, as you'll know, there's a distributed community over a large area. Many in isolation, and this is the start of looking to see how we might reconnect with some of those communities and individuals who are isolated. So,
how do the universities actually evaluate it? I mean, for example, do they sort of do medical checks on people having walked the kilometre and this sort of thing?
So less of that clinical looking at that, but much more looking at feelings of a softer, more social nature. So this is so for instance, we're having a look. So we're very much involved in this. You'll be aware that the social care system is under pressure. For a whole variety of reasons, not least because of staff. The numbers of staff available. The staff are superb and in our experience have been wonderful. So what we've done is we've gone in to assist the staff. We've helped, very good for us because we get immediate feedback, but also it's a way of helping the staff understand how the equipment should be used. And we started with the Relieve system and we're still taking that in, and we're now just moving into the Restore system. And the guys down in Plymouth are a little ahead of us, so they've moved a little faster with that. So they are now already working with people with the revitalised system, so fully ambulatory. And what they do is they look for feelings of well-being, of doing things which some of those individuals may never have done before. Up here in Oxford, we found a lovely lady who we were told had never partaken in any of the activities ever offered, always said no, and yet spent 40 odd minutes just immersed in some of the environments that we were presenting to them. So lovely, and starting to chat and talk about these things which this person had never done before. So it was described to us as miraculous, but I think it was just something which was now entertaining and they could connect with.
Innovate UK are sort of overseeing the project, I believe.
That's right.
What are they all about, Charles? What are they all about?
So Innovate UK is part of the UKRI, the UK Research Initiative, and essentially supports companies such as ours, but larger ones as well, to engage in activities which really don't at this stage command commercial value. So it's showing feasibility, it's showing that there's a market there. Those types of things that the Innovate UK will support. And what we're doing is a project which was to recondition, essentially looking to recondition 65-plus-year-olds who were deconditioned as a result of COVID. And so that's the kind of project. We targeted assisted living assisted living facilities, settings, as well as care homes. And it's the communities in those where we're just testing this out, seeing what's possible, seeing whether there's a relevance for this type of activity and whether it engenders the connections, the activities which will be useful.
Yeah.
We're finding really great results from that.
Now, Rovr, apart from obviously having its, dare I say, computer connections, you've also got on the board, gentleman, Sir Muir Gray, who's your medical director. So that's got to be an advantage from your point of view, hasn't it, to have somebody on board that specialises in longevity?
Absolutely. Muir has been a superb lift for our company and helps us, directs us, pointing us in the right direction, making connections for us, and giving us the kind of the background that we need to understand how we can help people live longer better, which is really the mantra, which is ours for the company, but also that for Muir Gray. And for many years, I mean, he essentially got his knighthood for the work he's done for Public Health England in supporting the ways in which people can live better in very practical ways. So, by writing books to help people. He's just written a book with a couple of colleagues from Oxford University. So guys, Charles Alisi, Larry Williams Chambers, and Muir Gray have written a book called Brain Ability, Increase Your Brain Ability and Reduce Your Risk of Dementia. So it's how to go about doing things. Some types of dementias are kind of disease driven, and there's still a lot of work going to understand that. But there's some of that which is associated with just not using our brains enough. Of not doing the activity that we ought to do. And some of those things are now well known to stave off the onsets of dementia. So activity, healthy activity, breathless exercise during the week.
Do you know what proportion of the 75 plus population is actually suffering from dementia?
Yeah, so the NHS has some stats on this, and it's around about 1 in 14 people over 65, and that will rise to around about 1 in 6 by the time you get to 80 years old. Yeah. So it's not that everybody will fall foul of this by any means. And there are ways in which we can help ourselves, but those are the types of stats at present. And that means that from the NHS perspective, that their estimate is that there'll be over 1 million people living with dementia in the UK by 2025. And that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is indeed. I must refer to the BBC Spotlight Southwest clip that was all about Rovr, and it featured a lovely lady called Joyce Penfold, 103. And her secret of long life, whiskey and chocolate.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. A lovely, yes, a superb lady. So this is the team down from Plymouth University who have been taking these VR treadmills, our Rovr VR treadmills, and the revitalized system into assisted living facilities and seeing what the interaction is, how people interact with it, what they find easy and what they don't, all of which is fed back to us so that we can change and modify what we're doing. This was, I think it was Joyce's 103rd birthday. Yeah. So it was a kind of birthday treat. Yeah. And we have a 3D model of a place on the Cornish coast called Maker Heights. And Maker Heights is a World War II redoubt fort with a spectacular view out over the coast. And we put some birdsong in there, and it's a photo, it's an early model of ours. We've improved the photorealism of it since we've done some of those earlier models. But nevertheless, it gives you a kind of photorealistic view of walking around Maker Heights, somewhere which I don't think she would have done before.
No.
But she was able to do now, and have wonderful views out over the ocean.
Incredible lady,
Yeah.
and it was so good afterwards, wasn't it, to see how she'd really loved every second of the experience.
And I think that's our experience as well with others. It's wow, thank you so much for that. I never thought I'd get there to see these places.
Yeah.
And it's that type of opportunity and choice which I think is really important to try and meet and provide those opportunities and choices. The Age UK talks about between 22 and 42% of people in care homes reporting profound loneliness. And it's not that there aren't people around them, it's just that they feel they can't do things. And they want to be able to do things.
Joyce, I would say, from watching the clip, obviously hasn't got a dementia problem. Is that correct?
I suspect not, no.
Yeah. But in terms of applications to aid dementia, where do you see yourself coming on that? And, are people likely to sort of have a fear of putting the headset on and things like that?
And that's one of the reasons why we developed this kind of VR pathway, which is going from seated VR, where you're merely seated wherever you are. The carer or a relative has a 10-inch tablet, which shows the same scene that is being seen by the person wearing the VR. And as the person looks around, so the scene changes on the tablet. So wherever they're looking, that's what is shown on the tablet. And what that enables us to do, and we have seen this, Tony, these headsets they go over the eyes, they kind of fix just over the top of the head. So they're clearly, you clearly know you're wearing them. And yet what we find is that if we offer them up, first of all, just as an ordinary pair of glasses just to peer into, then people see this new world. And it's seldom, really seldom, over multiple visits and lots of different people, that we've had anybody who has permanently refused. We might get I'll wait to watch what other people do.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, well, that looked interesting, I'll try. So there's an intrigue.
Yeah.
It's also a big advantage of being able to show them what they're going to be seeing on the tablet. So they can see what it is. And they can actually see what other people are seeing. So we can take the tablet around and people around can also see this. And I think there's real, that has been a big advantage. So yes, one needs to be very sensitive to where people are in terms of their acceptance of the technology. But it helps when there's a community doing it. I think that has been helpful.
Availability and cost. How far down the line are you in terms of, shall we say, mass production on the product?
So we are. So the relief system is available now.
Yeah.
And we have a business model which I think is a really nice one for owners, so they can buy the thing outright. We also provide them with an opportunity. What comes with that is the headset, over-ear headphones, so you get a complete immersion, and the tablet, and a really nice carry case to hold the whole lot. And for that's just under 4K, 4,000. And what comes with that are a whole bunch of videos and some CGI scenes, but also the ability to add your own your own music. So that makes it possible for residential settings, for families, for instance, to add their own 360 video. We provide instructions about how to do that. They don't have to be long. We're talking about 2 or 3 minutes, and our system puts them on a loop so that they can go around. And that's a really nice setup, and is appealing, I think, because people can add their own videos.
Yeah.
Makes it more personal to their local environment. And then the restore system, which is the seated active VR, we're just going through testing of that, and that will be available in the fourth quarter of this year. Once we've ironed out the wrinkles and all the other things from that, that's ready to go. And that actually based also on a tablet, or it can be looked at from a PC or a laptop as a third person. Somebody else can join. They don't even have to be in the care home. They can, or wherever it is, they can be in a different country. So you can do this but remotely. So that's a rather neat system, and you can have 2 or 3 people doing that walk. And then the other one, which is the final one, which is the fully ambulatory revitalized system. So the social platform for that and the social platform is already available. We're just building the content library for that. As soon as we get that content library to a stage where that may be in the latter half of this year, but it's more likely to be in early 2023. So that, and then we'll have a content library which will come with that.
I mean, looking at it from the point of view of a £4,000 investment for a care home, it's something that can be shared around the guests, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the actual unit cost boils down to not very much at all.
No, and it's constantly capable of being upgraded by the setting themselves. So the 360 cameras are really low cost now, so they can and people have them, so that they can acquire this film really easily. Put their own music on. It makes it very personal. But we've also got settings from northern Portugal and some Australia and places around the world, so you can escape, if you will, on a holiday to somewhere else with some beautiful natural sounds or music based over it. And that's a nice system. It is a nice system.
You're obviously hopeful that the National Health Service might come in and start using the system. Is that looking reasonably hopeful?
It is. So one of the things that is still being learnt about VR is the amazing effect it has on distraction. You may have been along to a dentist and seen a television on the ceiling, and it's typically not turned on for adults. Unfortunately, it's often turned on for children. Though adults would benefit just as well. And the brain can only focus on so many things, and so given a distraction, particularly immersive distraction, it has been found that people will not recognize the pain that they may be in, and that will dissipate. And that's been known for some 20 odd years. So over in Bar Harbor in the States, where they were looking after burns victims, VR was tried now about 20 years ago, and found that you could massively decrease the pain medication if you could place somebody in a VR environment. So what we're finding, and there's some work gone on up at Sheffield University, where they're looking at children wearing VR glasses to distract from, they need to stretch their arms. If they've been scalded and they have scar tissue and they need to stretch their arms, they find that if they put them in VR glasses and ask them to stretch their arms in the VR world, then they will overstretch. Then they can do things more than they would do in real life because the pain would be too much. And now they have to dial back because the VR distracts so much, and the children just don't feel the pain. So there are some amazing things that can be done with VR and are now being learned. And we're part of that journey. I think our VR equipment, presently the Relief equipment, is already in use in an NHS facility. They're looking for other applications of it, maybe for reducing the level of anesthetic required in certain procedures. But there's also the potential for instance, there are 50,000 knee operations done every year in the UK, probably less during COVID, probably now ramping up. But those knee operations rely on flexing the knee afterwards.
Yeah.
It's really important to do that. But it's not always as comfortable as one would hope. And yet it's not a problem to the knee, it's just there's a pain involved with it. And is there a way in which one can distract from that? And so maybe our restore system, where it is heel slides, may be ideal for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's something we'll be looking at. And so there are some lovely projects which we know about and which we'd love to embark on, and some others which we're being approached on. So,
Charles, it's very, very interesting, and I wish you every success with the project, because, you know, I'm probably going to qualify for it shortly.
But Muir says more of us should be like David Attenborough and the Queen. We should all be ambulatory and moving around. And yes, life happens, but we can do quite a lot ourselves.
He's right from that point of view. It's been a pleasure to have a chat with you. Thank you so much for sparing me some of your time, and all the best for the future, Charles.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.